Bruce's big call Dinar Intel Tuesday night October 21, 25. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. Transcribed by Wiser, now emailed to recaps, Intel only. Welcome everybody to the big call tonight. It's Tuesday, October 21st and you're listening to the big call. Thanks everybody again for coming in and tuning into us. We welcome everybody out there, all over the globe, and beyond. Thank you. So let's go ahead and pray the call in. Alright, let's talk about where we find ourselves now from an Intel point of view. First of all, yesterday, 9 in the morning. Until 5 p.m. there was a conference call with the banks from Treasury talking to the banks from 9 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon. What was the deal? They were talking about banks that had branches going away because they were not Basel III compliant. Which they needed to be by last Wednesday, the 15th of October. That was a deadline. If you weren't compliant by then, you're out. And so I'm sure, several banks, many banks probably that were, let's call them secondary banks, or tertiary type banks, are being removed. They weren't Basel III compliant, and some might not have been QFs compliant on the financial system. And there were some banks that had been caught shorting silver. Shortage means believing that the price of silver will go down. And it's something that happened, and I think that was something they were not supposed to do. And I think that helped to eliminate some other banks. So you're going to see a real clearing out of certain banks and certain branches as we move forward. That happened yesterday, and after that, at 8:20 p.m., last night bondholders started to be paid out. We found out that it was primarily what was going on internationally out of Geneva was paying certain international bondholders all day, from last night all the way through today. Then we also found out that at 5 o'clock Eastern today, that RS bondholders were to be paid out over the next 4 days, meaning the remaining time of today. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, they'd have them all done by Friday, and I'm sure there's still a little cleanup involved in that process, but that's happening out of Reno. So the international bonds were being handled out of Geneva, and those are done from what I understand. Now, here's the thing about it. Nobody gets access to their funds until we are ready to get access to our funds. So there's a tendency for everything to be lined up to go at the same time. Oh, and by the way these bondholders were being paid out in our country. I know, starting today at 5 Eastern was from the largest account down to the smallest account. So biggest, first in Tier 3, now Tier 3 bondholders, from the largest account holders down to the smallest by Friday. And that's and they probably will get emails to tell them what day they'll have access to those funds. Now, along those same lines, we're hearing from 2 or 3 pretty prominent sources that we should get notified for our exchanges with our 800 numbers. I'm hearing tomorrow and I'm hearing Thursday. Some are saying Thursday, some are saying Wednesday or Thursday. You know, that's tomorrow. So you know we just never know. I know that we did not get an increase in Social Security yet this month. But there's a possibility, and that is all it is, a possibility that on that 5th Wednesday, the 29th of this month, the additional amounts could be paid out. However, as the regular socials went out on the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, and tomorrow, 22nd, there's still room for a possible final additional Social Security increase on that 29th, and it could be on the 29th, which is a Wednesday of this month, which be a week from tomorrow. So we don't know absolutely that's going to be the case. We were told that it should take place in October. We've also been told that our exchanges should take place in October, this year, this month, and this week is looking good. We'll see what happens. You know, we do get pushed occasionally, and I think that that's just par for the course, but it is, let me think, if there's anything else. And you know, we are still looking for a Doge payment in combination with an R&R payment, and we're looking for the tariff dividends also, but I just don't know. I cannot know telling this go on or not for this month. Now, the other thing that we found out today is to keep an eye out for an EAS emergency alert system or an EBS, because I believe the legacy media satellites are being taken over and controlled by our military. We'll see what happens, but it could be that we'll see very shortly about some of the media news stations and TV stations that are just have been putting out incorrect news and incorrect information for years and years now. So we'll see what happens on that. We'll see. That's a little premature, maybe, but I want you guys to be aware, to look for something if you see anything on an EBS, EAS. And it could be the beginning, or could be just the military being able to do the news more accurately and truthfully and faithfully. What is really happening? Okay, So that's really what I wanted to say about all that. Tonight, we'll see what happens. I don't have a time tomorrow or on Thursday, but let's just see if we get it. We do plan to have a call on Thursday night, hopefully it's a celebration call, but we'll have to see what happens, to make sure that we get that. And it's interesting that when was it? A few days ago, we heard a recording that President Trump put out on Truth Social about the med beds. He actually brought him out, talked a little bit about it, and the next day it was taken off, I think a day or two later. And then the next time you heard about it was when the secretary was asked questions about it. And the press secretary, and she entered and didn't deflect, but she more or less said, this is part of the transparency of the Trump administration. Was put up, but then it was taken down, and I think that caused more interest than if it had saved us. So we're at the tip here on this what's going on with the med beds. We'll see what happens in the next couple of days. See if tomorrow or Thursday, this whole thing opens up for us. We pray that all out, and we'll talk to you Thursday. Okay, let's keep an eye on your email. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. Source: dinarrecaps.com